Welcome to the second episode of Mole Belgie Season 7 recaps from Reality TV Warriors. My name is Michael Harmstone, and joining me as always is the Canadian who isn't sure if you've ever seen a pig sweat, Logan Saunders.
Good morning.
Good morning. And bienvenue Bali still, isn't it?
Yep, I'm in Bali today. What day is it today here?
It's Wednesday there for you.
Wednesday, yeah. So I have all day today, all day tomorrow, and then I leave pretty much first thing Friday morning for Malaysia.
Yay! And not seeing Eamon.
And not seeing him. I'm seeing him for one day.
I'm sure I will get a few pictures from that, knowing both you and Eamon, actually.
Very good chance.
And what have you been up to this week?
What have I been up to? Let's see. I got Bali Belly. That was fun. Bali Belly is one of the most fun experiences you can have when traveling. You start off feeling super nauseous and tired on the first day, and the second day you're pretty much in the bathroom all day. The third day you're in the bathroom all day. The fourth day you're slowly starting to recover, and then by the fifth day you can actually resume your trip.
Yay!
So when you come to Bali, don't do a 1 or 2 week vacation. Because if you get Bali Belly, that pretty much takes up your whole trip.
Sounds like you had a shit week. Pun intended.
And on top of that, 2 out of the 3 days while I was staying at right in that rice field, super beautiful, super scenic, probably the best views I've ever had in a hostel. There was such heavy downpour that like it nearly flooded up to our steps, and they already have like anti-flooding defenses. But there was so much rain that we don't even really get for the area. Like usually what happens in Bali during rainy season is you have a half-hour downpour, and then everything's fine, and they usually will only happen like 3 or 4 days out of the month. That's what they consider a rainy season in Bali. But they say this is like one of the worst months ever, and I think like 4 out of the last 5 days there's been downpours that last at least an hour. Sometimes they've lasted like 2 or 3 hours, and that's with other little rains mixed in during the day. So 2 out of 3 days I've had to put up with flooding. But the thing is that it dries up so fast that within like an hour or so, like even if it's raining a little bit, the water actually decreases enough, even if it's pretty much nighttime, that the flooding is almost gone after a huge downpour.
So you've had a fun week then?
Yeah, it's been memorable. And I try to order in food during the flooding, but no drivers want to deliver food in the flood.
So anyway, this episode. So last week, everyone was shocked by the revelation that no mole had been chosen yet before they were interrogated to determine who would get the offer. And 3 people were shortlisted before the mole spoke to Gilles and assumed their role.
It would have been funny if they rejected it. Just be like,
Yeah, no.
Yeah, changed my mind. The juggling was too much. You guys tested me.
I assume we saw everyone's conversations with Gilles out of order, because if I were them, I definitely would have made the mole be the first of the 3 to go up to the desk, just in case they said no. Then you go, oh yeah, we were definitely intending on it being you all the time for the second choice.
Yeah, it'd be funny, yeah, you have to call them back. You want to be your afterthought?
Do you want to be our backup mole?
Our reserve?
Yeah.
We don't think you'll do that good of a job as the person we had in mind, but well, we've already started filming, so we need you.
And this episode opens with the wonderful clip on the first night of Gilles having to sneak out and brief the mole for the first time in the world's worst insulated hotel in the middle of the night. And this scene just kind of encapsulates why I think Belgian Mole is by far the best version. Because it feels like we're tagging along for these people's adventure, rather than being an integral part of it. It feels more documentary-ish.
I agree. Well, we talked about it as like a travel log.
But this scene, more than any other, I think, has kind of encapsulated that idea for me.
Especially when production's so transparent, saying this is the worst insulated hotel possible, but we still have to brief the mole anyway, somehow.
Yeah, I would assume there would have been location scouts of some description, so how did nobody think, if we're doing this rather important twist, maybe we should just, I don't know, test the acoustics of the hotel?
Yeah, or find like a really heavy-duty bunker or something.
But there's some very interesting choices in the actual editing of this scene, because the scene where everyone got interrogated and we see kind of quotes, there's got to be a hint in there, surely. That is like prime hint hiding.
Yeah, but we're never going to catch on to what the hint was supposed to be.
Oh, not at all. But I'm putting it out there now. I suspect a hint is hidden in there. And if, when we're sat in Kineopolis in Antwerp, we see that this was a hint, I'm going to be quite smug.
Oh, I'm sure you will be.
I mean, I'm going to be quite smug anyway, purely because I'm going to be there, but I'm going to be super smug if I'm right on my instinct here. And then the next morning, the jet lag affects everyone in a different way. So Joeri goes for a run, and Ava can't see, slept in, and doesn't recognise Elizabeth when she comes to wake her up.
We have an 11th contestant? Hans?
I have no idea, I'm just this blind.
Yeah, don't you know that's one of the effects of jet lag, Michael? Temporary blindness.
To be fair, I'm assuming they usually get a couple of days to get over the jet lag, so the jet lag just adds a bit of extra fun for us. In that these people were literally just thrust into the game straight away, as soon as they landed, rather than having a little bit of downtime first.
One hidden clue they can't use this year, then, is they can't use the I lie with my eyes clip. How is she going to take the quiz? She's going to need, like, a Braille laptop.
Do you reckon the jet lag factored into the mole choice? Because whoever dealt with the jet lag best was probably going to stand a much better chance of being the mole, just because they won't then blab about what they know.
Yeah, or actually be able to remember that they're the mole.
Or actually be able to remember how to sabotage the next couple of challenges.
Yeah. Be like, something... Do I make the sauce again? Is that what I do? Have we made the sauce yet, guys?
And on the way to the first challenge, we get Axel F-Boy doing his pilot voice for Brussels Airlines flying to JFK. And then someone just pops up in the back and goes, "Oh, we're going to New York, are we?"
Yes, after flying to Vietnam all the way from Belgium to choose who the mole is, now you guys are going to fly again all the way to New York City.
Yeah, how many of these people have seen last year's Vidum and gone, maybe there's going to be another surprise where we all start in different countries?
Yeah, there's the other 10 contestants actually waiting in New York City as we speak.
Sabotage. It's a twist.
Yeah, double executions every week until we get to a final 3.
Well, a final 6. Surely that's a bit mean on the people who are playing in New York, because they will potentially never have met the mole.
No, they eventually meet up in, like, episode 3.
Oh, right, so they merge in episode 3, okay.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know that Lisbeth was going this week, we get at least a couple of minutes dedicated to the fact that she's a widow and brings her husband's ashes with her. I'm not really going to go into that too much, but I did have a note saying, is she going to go home now? And the answer is, yeah. Yeah, this was a classic exit edit.
They tried their best to do a farewell episode for her as possible.
They did, but also, it's a textbook first boot edit that she gets.
At least she didn't get spray painted.
Even for people who haven't seen as much reality TV as we have, you can kind of read between the lines with this entire Lisbeth widow scene.
Considering nobody else gets a personal scene for the whole episode.
And they are driven to the market for their first challenge with a mole. And the mole has already told Gilles that they will do everything to sabotage his challenge. And Gilles even suggested to them that they add extra ingredients to the recipe.
It would have been funny if the mole was so obvious saying, I'm going to do everything to sabotage this challenge.
Everything.
And they tip over the Jenga towers and just stop everybody from picking up the chopsticks. And then when it's their turn to chop the food, they just throw everything into the bowl like a madman.
And when they get to the stand, they just try and seduce the judge and, just make it super obvious that they are the mole. And then Gilles turns to camera and goes, right, this season's cancelled, bring in the 10 people from New York.
What? Yeah, I told you I was going to do everything to sabotage this challenge. Did you see me knock the chopsticks out of Bruno's hands? and snap them in half? Or the time we were in the chain line and I just started running backwards from the starting line and everyone had to drag me through the rice fields and up the steps.
I'm so glad that we got a good episode this week. Not that last week wasn't a good episode, but last week was very much a scene-setting episode for the rest of the season. This week is just a classic Belgian Mole episode of stupid people doing silly things.
To be fair, the cooking challenge looked tough.
The cooking challenge was impossible. There's not a chance in hell when you have a new mole going into this that they're not going to horrifically sabotage.
How many times did they make that sauce?
It was at least 4 that we saw. And you have cats watching on a monitor just going, stop making the sauce. For the love of everything holy, leave the sauce alone.
Well, now there's enough sauce for the whole town, for all of Ninbin.
And Gilles asks for 2 candidates who love to cook, and Bass and Kat are the chosen ones. And the first challenge is a cooking relay. Each person will cook for 8 minutes and try to make chakar, a Vietnamese fish dish. If they make it flawlessly, they can earn €3,000. Baz and Kat will see a demonstration of the cooking, then do the first round of it, and then try and pass it on in a game of cooking Chinese whisper relay. And in a nearby restaurant, the other 8 get the 8 steps to the recipe, and they must use chopsticks to build block towers. Each complete tower earns them a step to the recipe, which they can then relay to whoever's cooking at the time.
What if somebody knew Vietnamese in the cast?
I think they probably would have screened that. Because you can kind of get away, like last year with Mexico. Some people are going to at least have had an understanding of Spanish. If you find anyone who has an understanding of Vietnamese, given it's not mutually intelligible with any other language in the world, then that's super unlucky if you accidentally cast them.
Yeah, find out that they were they were stationed there for 10 years or something.
They couldn't do a challenge like this in a country that has maybe a much more common language. Whereas if you have a country like Vietnam where the language is both impenetrable and not mutually intelligible with any other major language in the world, you can get away with doing this challenge.
This was a really creative challenge, by the way. Like, impossible to win, but neat in concept.
Yeah, this is a typical Belgian Mole challenge, in that it's really difficult to win, especially when you have a brand new mole who wants to prove themselves. But also it ties perfectly into the culture, and is very visually interesting. Which is exactly what we want in a challenge.
And Joeri and who was the last person that was with him in the Jenga?
Joeri and Elizabeth.
Yeah, when they actually did teamwork on that last tower.
That is how you do it. That's how they should have done it from the first instance.
Yeah, have them in pairs doing it.
But no, they can't make it easy.
And they did the last tower, which was the most useless piece of information I have ever seen.
Well, at some point, the building the towers is useless anyway, because you're getting a bit too far into the cooking time where it's not going to be useful at all. Like, if you're Joeri and Elizabeth, you might as well have just given up on the last 2 towers, because there's not a chance in hell you're going to be useful. And the plating is by far the easiest thing, and she's probably not going to mark you down for the plating, it's the taste that she's going to mark you down for.
Yeah, I can't see her being like, man, this tastes perfect, but goddamn, the presentation's god-awful.
It's raw! Just goes all Gordon Ramsay on their ass.
Smashes the plate.
She gets some Vietnamese bread and turns them into the new Julie Chen and says, "You're an idiot sandwich."
Maybe she takes down, she just takes down Jill's. Why did you have these monsters ruin such a delicious delicacy? My taste buds are forever ruined. My palate altered forever.
And I have to say that putting everyone on the same table for building the towers is just evil, because they just get in each other's way. It makes it even harder.
Yeah, like when the pieces casually slide into Joeri's tower multiple times.
I thought he was going to go Hulk on someone.
Yeah, like he was sweating. It's like he was in one of those like bomb diffusers. That's what it like, with his hand shaking with the chopstick as he's trying to handle the Jenga piece. I'm almost there. The bomb is almost defused.
You pointed out last week that he has an additional handicap in the fact that you critiqued his chopstick technique.
Yeah, he's really come a long way.
He did have one in each hand and was using it basically like tweezers, but that's beside the point. And Kat begins by making the dip sauce, and Bass makes the fish marinade. And it's fair to say that Bass is rubbish at making his sauce. He just keeps breaking the cloth over and over again. And then Ingrid and Bruno are the first to switch, and they have a minute to get all the information from Bass and Kat before they have to take over the cooking. Once they leave the market, they can't help with the towers, but they can watch the cooking on a screen. And then Elizabeth is the first to complete the tower, and she gets minimal instruction for them to pass on, so doesn't bother passing it on. And Joeri, despite his lacklustre chopstick technique last week, is very close to completing the 6th tower. But Lisbeth completes step 2 and rings Ingrid and Bruno, but they are already on step 5.
That's when they realized they should have just done like the last 4 steps in pairs. I'm curious if they even would have won the challenge, though, if they did it again, like they do it if they did a do-over.
Well, the question I always ask in this sort of situation is, where would you put yourself as the mole?
I would say in one of the first couple pairs.
Yeah, I would say you volunteer as the cook, because these people are not going to know how good you are at cooking, because you're staying in a hotel, you've not had to self-cater yet. And also, more importantly, it's the easiest place to sabotage without anyone else being able to see, because nobody watches you on a monitor. The only person you have to dupe is the person next to you. And if you're then splitting up the responsibilities, as they did, it makes it very easy to accidentally add a bit more sauce, or add a bit more shrimp paste, or add a bit more lime juice, or just cook the noodles.
Or throw in a chocolate bar.
But yeah, if you are the mole, you 100% try and get yourself into that first pair. You don't accept anything else.
Yeah. Do you think that would be what other contestants would think too much, and then maybe being in the second pair would be fine?
I'm not sure, because the trade-off is that you can either sabotage by adding extra stuff in, as Jill suggested, or alternatively, you can deliberately miss stuff out when you're doing the Chinese whispers. And I'm not sure which bit is the most integral to try and sabotage easily.
I feel like if you're the third pair, that would almost be the best, because then you can just blame on there being misinformation earlier in the task, and there'd be a lot more chaos that you can probably screw it up beyond repair.
But the trade-off is, of course, that the longer you wait, the more people who are watching you on the screen, and they can hear everything you're saying.
Yeah, but I feel like you can just blame it on something else if you make a mistake, though. You can be like, oh, no one told me that.
I think you risk making yourself a bit too suspicious if you try and sabotage towards the end, if you know what's coming.
Right.
I'm wondering whether Gilles told the mole to try and be subtle about it. Because the main thing that we saw when he was doing his briefing with the mole was that their reaction didn't change from when they were a candidate to when they were being interrogated as a potential mole. They didn't let anything on. And I think that's the key. You've got to try and be a bit more subtle, especially when everyone's going to be more heightened looking for a mole in the first challenge with one. Especially after they got duped last time.
And they're going to be checking to see how people behave in contrast to the first challenge, too.
I think there are some prime opportunities in this challenge to sabotage, but I'm not sure whether you pull the trigger as mole just yet. You maybe do something subtle like add in extra ingredients or accidentally forget something, but you don't do anything over the top because everyone is literally just going to look at you.
And the next thing you know, you're Peter and there's 5 people who figure out you're the mole.
Yeah, or me figuring him out in week 2 and then you saying, no, it's not him.
That can't be him, Michael, come on. That's too obvious. Holy moly.
Not that I'm still bitter about the fact that I got both moles from week 1 or week 2 last year, and both of the seasons I got dragged away from suspecting them.
Yeah, it's tunnel. You can't go down that tunnel vision road. Keep your options open until final 3.
On the subject of suspect list as well, Dan Peake, who runs the Bothers Bar suspect list, which we wholeheartedly endorse, is currently, as we record this on Tuesday, putting together the stats for the Vidum suspect list, and is actually going to send us some bespoke me versus you ones.
Oh yeah, I read about that on Twitter. That's going to be fun to see how horrible I was this year.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. And he is also running the Belgian Mole suspect list, which I am putting in the description every week. It's the same link every week. You can distribute 100 points to whoever you suspect, and at the end of the 9 weeks we'll find out if anyone scored 900.
I'm going to go for that.
Spoilers, I put all 100 points on one person this week.
And we'll find out who that is at the end?
Yes, you will, because I also put 50 points on them last week. So Axel and Martijn are the third pair, and Ingrid says that they know nothing, which I wrote down because it was very interesting given that the entire marketing of this season was "Je weet niets."
So in other words, they would do terrible at a game of You Don't Know Jack.
You don't know Jack! Yeah. Just going to have a look at my trophy as always. And Axel and Martijn see the pile of unnecessary stuff that Kat put there and start cutting it all up just to cook it.
Yeah, why not? It's on the table. Why else would you have it on the table?
At which point we have Ava giving Joeri a nervous breakdown when she keeps rolling blocks at his tower. And then Gilles gets the quote of the episode when he says it took a few years off his life, but Joeri managed to finish the 6th tower. I love Gilles' sassy bastard voiceovers. It makes me laugh so much every time. He's just a little bit bitchy towards them. And it's not even in a Rick way where it's slightly malicious. I enjoy that Gilles just loves teasing these people, especially in the voiceover where they can't fight back.
And Ava couldn't see it all, but somehow made it to the challenge.
And Ava and Lisbeth perform the penultimate switch, which leaves Joeri and Elizabeth to do the final towers. And Martijn rings the remaining two to get ingredients for the dipping sauce, not realising that it's already made, and Kat is screaming at him about it.
My question is, did anyone think they were going to win this challenge, or how long did it take for the last person to realize, we think we failed this?
Yeah, if you are a candidate, the best place to be is probably quite early on if you suspect you're ever going to be, watching everyone's actions on the screen.
Maybe the 4th jar of sauce that makes you think our chances are pretty slim of snagging those 3,000 euros.
But I really enjoyed the facial reactions to the sauces, varying from, oh yeah, it's disgusting, to, actually, it's probably culturally appropriate.
Yeah. The Vietnamese, they like shitty cuisine.
Having said that, if this is our only Vietnamese cuisine task, I'll be very disappointed, because Vietnam has a history on Amazing Race of doing ridiculous food challenges. I want to see these people eat deep-fried scorpion.
I hear it cures blindness.
Maybe, just maybe, Ava might get cured.
I can see eyes.
It only cures the blindness if you rub it into the eyes, though. You've just got to rub it in just to make sure it definitely works.
Yeah, right from the pinchers. The harder the pinch, the more you know it's working.
The Logan Saunders story. And Joeri and Elizabeth work together well to build the final tower, despite what Ava told them to do before she left. And then the time runs out, and the teacher now tastes the dish. If it's sellable, they win the 3,000 euros. However, she says no, they earn nothing. And the problems were the fish, the sauce, the noodles, and the unnecessary ingredients. So, everything? She
should have just, as soon as she rejected it, she should have, just dumped out the plate onto the street in front of them.
And after the challenge, everyone goes to buy souvenirs in the market. And we see Axel take a picture of Vietnamese ladies as they've never seen someone so tall. But Joeri can't let the dip sauce go.
Maybe each person could have taken a jar of dip sauce home with them as a souvenir. There certainly was enough.
I'm not sure they'd get it through customs.
They tasted, oh no, this is poison. This is weaponized.
The sniffer dogs just go apeshit at it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, somebody smuggles in cocaine.
And on day 3, Gilles meets them all in the lobby of the hotel and tells them they'll be getting a bit closer by splitting into 2 groups, a strong group and a weak group. And once they split into the 2 groups, they find out they will spend the day chained together, including having to eat breakfast in their chained groups. And I wonder what everyone in the hotel was thinking.
They were just thinking, oh, those kinky Belgians.
The strong group is Bas, Joeri, Kat, Lisbeth and Martijn. And the weak group is Axel, Bruno, Elizabeth, Ava and Ingrid. And all the strong group seems to be having Coke and Fanta with their breakfast. What a way to start the day.
Yeah, nothing healthier and more energizing than some Fanta.
I've had Vietnamese Coke before. It's not bad. And the strong group leaves for the challenge first, and they are driven to the Karst Mountains near Ninh Binh.
I feel like we've seen this before in another TV show.
The area around Ninh Binh is quite popular for Amazing Race. I've got a feeling it might have been the area near, or the area around where Joey had his meltdown in 29.
I think so too.
So the strong group will set how much money can be earned on their hike. All they have to do is do the same 5 kilometre hike as the weak group, and the weak group have to match or beat their time to earn the money. And for every 10 minutes that they take, the money available drops by €250, beginning at 4,000. If the weaker group don't exceed or match the stronger group's time, they earn nothing. And both teams get an update via a smartwatch from Gilles' texts. And as they are in the strong group, they get an extra 15 kilo weight to carry with them, attached to Bass, who is the last in the group. And along the hike, they will see signs and potential opportunities to earn extra money, for a total of €6,000 for this challenge. And the first sign that they come across says that they can drop their weakest link if they want to, and the strong group chooses not to. And the weaker group do their introduction, and they only get a 10 kilo weight to carry with them.
With Jules' text, it's funny that just to picture him just on top of this beautiful scenic mountain, and he's just stuck staring at his phone the whole time.
He's just sat there going, new phone, who dis?
Yeah. Best friendins. You lost another €250.
The only reason I know it was done via a text is because we actually saw it on Baz's smartwatch towards the end, I think it was.
Oh, I didn't look that closely.
You should know by now, I look closely at everything. Mainly because they usually ends. But yeah, it looked like a text on an Android smartwatch saying, Gilles, you've gone down to 1,250.
He should just taunt them through the text too. How's the bamboo dancing going?
Have you got 2 left feet?
Can somebody read this out loud to Ava?
Has Ava got her reading glasses?
Hey guys, can you bring some of the sauce up here too?
So, the second board that they come across says that they can earn extra money by trying to get up a slippery ramp. But the money is only banked if the weaker group equals or exceeds their effort. And as they go on the slippery ramp, the clock keeps ticking down for the overall prize too. And after much struggle, they manage to get €200, which they then bank potentially for the weaker group to try and equal or match. And the third board has a chisel, and they consider using it to remove their ball and chain, and despite Joeri being a welder, they just end up leaving the hammer and chisel because they can't work out how to do it. And then the weaker group get to the slippery ramp, and they do also equal €200, which means that that is banked regardless of the results of the challenge. However, at the third board, they solve the weakest link clue, realise that one of the links on their chains is plastic, and split off into 2 groups. Because they are intelligent people.
One of the groups was intelligent people.
Yeah. The weak group, this is. The strong group just meathead it through. And at the fourth board, the strong group sees a bamboo dance set up, and every time the last person passes a bamboo duo without hitting the bamboo, they can earn €200 up to a maximum of 1,000. However, if the weak group don't beat their efforts, they earn nothing for this mini-challenge. And the strong group end up getting through 3 rows after wasting so much time. And there is a potential €600 for that. And the hike finishes with a 450-step hike up Dragon Mountain.
I assume that had to be the pit stop from 29.
I think it was, but I'm not 100%.
Yeah. The weak group, even with being able to split into 2, still couldn't do their bamboo dancing.
No, but they have the logical idea of, given that we're the group that has to beat the other one, maybe we should not waste time on this one.
Which was not a bad strategy, and they actually try to move as fast as they can. While the strong group, I wish Jules would have revealed how much faster the weak group was, but I have a feeling it could have been a difference of like €500 or more.
He kind of did, and I'll get to that in a minute. Where would you have positioned yourself if you were the mole on this challenge?
In the strong group, you could cause enough chaos by constantly wanting discussion and bogging yourselves down that way. Trying to it'd be the easiest way to slow down the money.
Yeah, because the 2 schools of thought is either slow the strong group down, either by procrastinating towards the end, and maybe making everyone wait 10 minutes, or you procrastinate at the mini-challenges, try and get a nominal amount into the pot potentially, but then obviously reduce the overall pot much more. Or alternatively, you go in the weak group and you just try and slow them down as much as possible to earn 0. But then do you risk making yourself a bit more obvious?
That's what I was thinking with the weak group. The only way that with the weak group, they would just rush through the challenges so much that there's no way that they would make €0 in all those mini challenges. That's really the only way I think you can sabotage the weak group.
Yeah, I think the mole was probably in the stronger group, just because that's more. There's more options for subtle sabotage in the strong group rather than the weak group.
Exactly, stalling stalling and chaos of communication is always a lot more subtle and a lot easier to have everyone accept the blame.
So the strong group do decide to wait 10 minutes at the top to try and give the weaker group the best chance of winning. And I have a note here saying, surely it's a good idea to wait 9 minutes, so you only waste 1 minute, and you can still keep the €250, potentially.
Yeah, why wait till it goes down a whole 250?
Yeah, just get as close to the next 250 as you can, but just do the last step.
Yeah, instead you just have to awkwardly stare at Jill's for 10 minutes.
You just have a staring contest with Gilles DaCosta.
He can't acknowledge you, he just they actually see him pull out the phone to text them. It's like, couldn't you have just said it out louder right here, Jills? Nope, gotta play by the challenge. Jill's such a millennial. Doesn't even talk out loud, he just texts.
And he actually said in his text, you just lost €250, with just the letter U. If he was a Gen Xer, he would have put the entire word U, but he just put the letter U.
Yeah, more efficient.
And although Ingrid takes a water break and Elizabeth is super dizzy, they see the finish line. And in the end, when the group reunites, they earn €200 from the ramp and nothing from the bamboo dancing, as the weak group just decided to bail on it because it's difficult as all hell.
I like how the ramp was massive, but both groups only made like 1/10 of the way there.
Yeah, it's one of those examples where you go, that looks really easy on TV, and then you get there and it's like a 25-foot ramp and you go, how the hell am I meant to actually do decently on this? It's set up purely for comedy.
Just the way they're all sliding around, just looking so hopeless. It's like they were in quicksand.
Don't give him ideas, that'll be for season 8 next year.
Yeah. How far can you guys go in this waist-deep quicksand?
We've set off a paint bomb on you twice. We've buried you alive. We've thrown you off a wobbly Vietnamese crane. And now we're just going to chuck you in quicksand. Have fun. Oh, and we've had you be chased by ostriches.
The good news is every contestant for every future season gets a commemorative bowl of sauce upon arrival.
I'm so glad you didn't say that phrase during our Vidum recaps, because I know where that conversation would have gone.
Jamie and the pillow.
There we go. And weirdly, the ostrich challenge was actually mentioned off air on local radio on Friday evening in Britain.
Oh.
Because someone who shall remain nameless, but his name rhymes with Michael Harmstone, was on a live radio show on Friday evening.
Oh, you talked about the ostrich challenge?
I did give the Mole a shout out, as is a requirement whenever I make a TV or radio appearance. I gave the Mole a shout out. And off air I was explaining why we love Belgian Mole so much, and explained both the Drunk Museum Heist Challenge and the Ostrich Challenge to people.
Hopefully they tune in.
Overall, the weaker team were the faster team though, so they earned €1,450 out of a possible 6,000 for this challenge. And this brings them up to an episode total of 1,450 out of a possible 9,000, and an overall total for the season so far of €3,450 of a possible 14,000.
It's not terrible. Respectable.
I mean, they're already at a third of where Vidum was, and I know I told you off for making this comparison last week, but it needs to be said they're at just short of a quarter of the potential pot so far.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
And it is now time for the test. 20 questions on the identity and actions of the Mole. Whoever knows least goes home, apart from the Mole, who never goes home. And I did notice that Gilles' execution speech now, his test and execution speech, is very similar to Vidum's. Because I did lift that word for word again off the Vidum test and execution speech, but so did Gilles this week.
Maybe he's been on a Vidum binge.
Yeah, we know he watched Vidum last year at least.
He poached their speech.
Yeah, that's something interesting to keep an eye on, because Belgian Mole did appear on Dutch TV this year. The Mexico season is still, I believe, currently airing in Holland.
Oh, they're going to love Lloyd.
That Lloyd gif from the last challenge is just so wonderfully useful for every situation. It brings such joy to my heart to see Lloyd falling through the air repeatedly, just messing up constantly. And Ava says she has no idea who the mole is yet, and Ingrid says Bruno was very helpful at the challenge and dragged her to the top, so she can't see him being the mole, and Elizabeth was very weak, despite Ingrid being the weakest part of the weak team. And now probably the most important sentence, because it answers a question you asked earlier. Martijn says that Cass is suspicious due to waiting until the smartwatch was 1,250, when, had they used the weaker watch, they would have earned €2,000.
Wow, that's a huge difference. Half an hour?
Which means that, they were half an hour slower than the weak group.
Yeah, the mole was in the strong group then.
And given that the maximum time on that was, 2 hours? That's a quarter of the time that the weaker team were faster than the stronger team there.
For Kat and Bas, they were both in the first group for cooking and in the strong group, right?
I'll say now, one of them is the person I've put 100 points on, and one of them also has a potential clue pointing towards them from last week. And they are the same person.
Okay.
And Axel says that Ava pulled Bruno down the slippery hill. Baz thinks that Joeri refusing to remove the ball was suspicious. And then we get the test and execution. So, the first green screen goes to Kat, and then Axel, Martijn and Ava all get green screens, before Team Saunders loses its first player in Lisbeth.
Oh. Wah, wah, wah.
I'm going to keep saying every week which team has lost a player. Just to warn you now, especially if it's you.
Ingrid's going to pull this out.
And everyone cries, including Lisbeth, and she just wanted a fun time. And then everyone says at least she got to come on an adventure to scatter some more of her husband's ashes.
And that's where we're going to end the conversation.
Yeah, because instead we have something inherently creepy to discuss in the first diary of the mole.
Yeah, conversation with Sina and Chan.
What, has he got back to you?
No, I mean at the end.
I was going to say, don't, surprise me on a podcast. That's rude. Yeah, the diary of the mole. What were your thoughts?
So unexpected and so random.
So creepy.
It's so creepy, yeah. It should have just, instead of it being the "this is the mole" voice, it should have just been Sina Hans reading the dialogue.
I mean, I feel like if we get more of these diaries of the mole, they're going to end up being a major clue for the season. But it's just so creepy.
I'm going to make everyone trust in me. They believe in me. So it's going to be so easy to lie to them. I feel like a murderer. I feel like a murderer beheading each one at a time. And I'm going to send their heads to their families back home. And I'm going to send some duck sauce to accompany it.
So, next week, there's rowboats. Gilles issues a warning that this week he will lie once. There's karate. And everyone sleeps with an animal.
Yeah, just he rounds them up for the challenge. He's like, okay, you guys ready? By the way, I'm an Olympic gold medalist judo champion. Okay, let's go.
What do you think Gilles' lie is going to be?
That he's an Olympic gold medalist judo champion. Everyone's just going to believe it. And then at the end of the season, we're like, gotcha, I was silver. Duh.
Because as soon as I saw that next week trailer, my mind immediately went to an old Big Brother UK twist where Big Brother said at the start of the week that they were going to lie 3 times. And one of the lies was that you didn't have to nominate, even though nominations are compulsory. So I wonder if it's going to be something like that. I know I had the spy reference last week. It's Big Brother this week.
Maybe he's actually going to just, when he says he's going to lie, that at the end of the episode when he does the execution, instead of just sitting down to type in the names, he just goes on top of the table, puts the laptop on his lap and lays back, and he actually lies down to type in the name.
maybe he's going to lie with his eyes. Gilles is the mole, confirmed.
No mole has been chosen. All 10 of you were worthless choices. After the interrogation, he's like...
We're bringing in Sinan.
Yeah, that won't be obvious. But I'm just thinking in front of the group of 10, he's like, okay, after talking to 10 of you and the 3 people who we thought about choosing, it's very clear who needs to be the mole. He just goes back to the trailer. It's gonna be me.
It's gonna be
me. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure Jules loves NSYNC.
Gilles is the 6th member of NSYNC, confirmed.
Yeah, somehow more memorable than Chris Kirkpatrick.
So, I'm bringing back the classic questions now. Who do you suspect who's going home next?
So far, a lot of suspicion on Boss and Kat. It's really tough to suspect anyone else this week. Maybe Bruno gets executed next?
Maybe. You reckon Team Saunders is going down to 3?
Yeah, I like to rally.
My main suspect is Kat. And I'll tell you why.
Oh, tell me why.
So, last week, do you remember the hangman puzzle on the airbag?
Oh, I remember not the specific letters and the dashes.
So, the example that Gilles used when they brought up the animation on the screen was exactly the same letters as Joeri got when he jumped, which was Groenen, with spaces in between them, which spells out Groen Ein, or Green 1, who got the first green screen of the episode and of the season.
Oh.
That would be Kat. In addition to the fact that I'd already split on her and Martine last week when I did the suspect list.
I don't suspect Martine as the mole at all. He's like the least. He reminds me of... Who was the guy from the Argentina season of Belgian Mole? That kid?
Stein.
Yeah, Stein? Yeah. He's like in that category of, I don't suspect you at all, and I never will.
He's less suspicious to me this week, but I only suspected him last week because him and Kat got very similar confessionals about always wanting to work towards the goal and try and drag the team towards it. So I thought it would be interesting if either of them were the mole.
I just can't suspect somebody who looks like Buddy Holly.
Kat is definitely number 1. And then maybe Martine, although he's a lot less suspicious to me. I don't know who else, to be honest, and I worry that I'm going definitely down a tunnel vision route here.
It's only been one episode with the mole, Michael.
I know, but also if I'm right and it is Kat and I get 850 points on the suspect list, I win, so I don't care. Or 750 it'll be, won't it? Because the reveal will be in episode 9. I mean, I guess Bass goes into my top 3 kind of by default. I guess those 3 would have been the 3 to get the maybe message last week. And not a lot's changed in terms of those 3 being my suspects, just Kat is definitely a way ahead right now. And I also think it would be very interesting to pick someone as young as Kat to be the mole.
They tend to draw the least amount of suspicion.
Yeah, exactly, that's what I mean. We haven't had a really young mole in a while.
Yeah, if only we still had Booba.
It's basically like making Nikki the mole in Vietnam 19, in terms of age. I think her and Kat are pretty much the same age.
Yeah, except I don't think Nikki could have kept as much of a straight face as Kat.
And I think that anyone from Team Saunders is going next week. I'm just going to root for my team now.
Bruno? What? There's no way Bruno or Ingrid or whoever else I chose.
I think it's wonderful that after I put together our 2 teams lists, I did look at who Belgium suspects, and it was about 60-40 between my team and yours. There was a massive difference in suspicion for my team and suspicion for yours.
Yeah, Belgians know nothing.
They've 8 neats. You've 8 neats, Belgium. You've 8 neats. So, have you got anything else to say?
No, I think I'm good.
In that case, thank you for listening to this Mole Belgie recap. We'll be back next week for more mole hunting. I really should change that phrase because I can never say it. We'll be back next Thursday for more mole hunting. If you've got any questions, feel free to contact us on our Facebook page, Reality TV Warriors, on our Twitter account, RTV Warriors, or our own Twitter pages, MD Harmstone for me, and Log Super Quacky for Logan. See you next week. And I will also say, Happy birthday me for Sunday.
Oh, happy birthday! If I don't see ya.
Thank you. We're not doing a birthday podcast this year, but the next episode does indeed air on my birthday. Yay!
That's enough of a present.
Peace out and just chill until the next flavoring.
Yeah.